Hey guys, Elizabeth here from Plant-Based Bride, and today we're talking about Last Week in Vegan. So before I get into anything else, I just wanted to wish you all happy Vegan Month. World Vegan Day was on November 1st, and the entire month of November is considered Vegan Month. So celebrate Vegan Month along with me, eat lots of awesome vegan food, go to vegan events, hang out with vegan friends, and maybe convince some of your friends to try going vegan this month. For any of you watching who are not vegan yet, this is the perfect time to give it a try. I will leave lots of resources in the description box below with articles and videos that can help you try to go vegan for a month and beyond. So the first story of the day is that Taiwan is going to be ending cosmetic animal testing by 2019. This is a huge deal. This entire country will no longer sell any products that have been tested on any animals whatsoever, and not just final products, but also ingredients within those products. So this is great news. This means that any company that wants to sell their products in Taiwan are going to need to stop testing on animals. This bill was just signed last week and initially came up to the Taiwanese government in April and was promoted by Humane Society International. They worked in partnership with Taiwan's SPCA for the hashtag Be Cruelty Free campaign, which is something that I've talked about before on my blog in the Canadian version of this campaign. And while it's great news that Taiwan is taking this step forward and that by 2019 will not allow the sale of any of these cosmetics tested on animals, unfortunately, in my own country, Canada, it is still legal to sell cosmetics that have been tested on animals. So if you don't know much about this already, I'm going to link below some articles and information about the Be Cruelty Free campaign and its status in Canada. While numerous countries around the world, including the European Union and Norway and now Taiwan, are committed to ending animal testing, Canada has not as of yet changed their laws. So there's a petition that I'm going to leave down below that you can sign to try to convince the Canadian government that animal testing should be left in the past. The next story of the day is that the Daily Mail posted an article titled, "Can You Really Be a Healthy Vegan?" Now the emphasis is not mine, the really is capitalized. And the subtitle is "Nutritionist Gives His Expert Verdict and Reveals the Safest Way to Follow the Diet." Now, this article overall is pretty positive. It talks about the fact that a vegan diet can be healthy and talks about ways to do it. But I just hate these titles that continue this fear-mongering around vegan diets as if you don't eat animal products, you're just gonna die immediately. Or that if you don't really carefully plan your diet, you're gonna be deficient in everything and so unwell. It's just not true. It's like anything. If you don't plan your diet, you may miss out on things and not feel great. It's just like anyone who eats animal products. If they eat too many processed foods and not enough high nutrient foods, they're not gonna feel awesome. They might be deficient in something. It's not just a vegan thing, it's an everyone on every diet thing. And the fear-mongering is just getting so extreme that even positive articles are framed around this fear of doing the diet wrong. Now, I don't think there's anything wrong with learning about nutrition and being aware and doing your best to get everything you need. Of course, that's important. But again, that's important for everyone, not just for vegans. There are other aspects of this article that I really dislike, such as the author referring to it as a radical diet. And as vegans like to point out, what's more radical? Eating plants or growing plants to feed to animals that we can kill to eat? The article also brings up the fact that veganism can be a way to cover up eating disorders and that it may not be suitable for young children. Now, of course, we know it has been said over and over again by well-regarded organizations that vegan diets are well suited for people in every stage of life. That includes children, that includes the elderly, everyone. It is safe to be pregnant and be vegan. All of these things have been said over and over again, and the mass media is just ignoring it. I also really dislike what they're saying here about veganism being a way to mask eating disorders. I do understand that this is something that happens, that people sometimes will claim to have certain diet restrictions to help to hide that they're just restricting in general. but I really don't think it's fair to say that, especially because anyone who's in the vegan community knows that veganism is such a wonderful way to come back from eating disorders. I know so many people who have healed themselves and found a healthier view on food, had a healthier relationship with food because they went vegan or because they embraced veganism in a new way. And I just find it frustrating every single time that the mass media refers to veganism as an eating disorder or a way of hiding that you have an eating disorder. I have never had a healthier relationship with food than I do now after 4 years as a vegan. So basically what I'm saying is don't believe everything you read. I'll leave the link below if you want to read this entire article, but if you're anything like me, it might make you a bit irritated, so maybe don't. The next story of the day is that Morrissey is encouraging Australia to end live animal export. So for anyone who doesn't know, Morrissey is the singer of the Smiths, and he has written a letter to the Deputy Prime Minister of Australia asking him to end this cruel practice. He wrote this letter in conjunction with PETA because of the large issue that is live animal export from Australia. Millions of animals are shipped out by boat every single year, and many of these animals die from the extreme conditions that they are exposed to on these voyages. Morrissey said, quote, "The horrific cruelty in the live export industry is heavy enough to sink a ship. Yet you insist on condemning millions of animals to this fate every year." He goes on to say, "If meat is murder, then live export is a slow boat to hell," and then goes on to ask him to put live export out of its misery immediately. I really applaud Morrissey for this. I think he is doing a great thing by bringing the world's eyes to this issue and bringing it directly to someone in power in the government in Australia who may have a way of improving, if not eliminating, this situation altogether. You might have heard of Morrissey before because he's had a controversial requirement for any venue he plays at that it must be a meat-free venue. I, of course, think this is a great thing. I think it challenges venues to decide what's more important, peddling suffering or making money off of a well-known band. And if venues can realize they can still make a lot of money off of concessions that don't include animal byproducts, maybe we can see a bit of a change. So good work, Morrissey. I'm really glad you're on our side. The next story of the day is the Pig Save trial that's currently going on very near where I live here in Canada. If you don't know anything about this trial, I would highly recommend watching Bite Size Vegan's video on it that she recently posted. I'll link it below. She goes very in depth on the situation and has an interview with Anita, who is the woman who has been charged with mischief for giving water to pigs who are being transported on their way to slaughter. They also get into a lot of what the expert witnesses have had to say at the trial, and I really think this is an amazing thing. Well, of course, it would be ridiculous to send someone to jail for 10 years for giving animals a drink of water when, in a different situation, if someone were giving water to a dog who was left in a hot car, there would be no repercussions, and perhaps the owner of the car would be the one who was sentenced to jail. We all know that pigs are more intelligent than dogs, and so the treatment really doesn't make any sense unless, of course, you know that most humans have a serious case of speciesism. One of the experts that have been called in by the defense in this trial is animal behavior expert and neuroscientist Lori Marino, who told the courts that pigs experience pain and suffering, and they also understand and perceive time. She went on to talk about the fact that pigs' emotional and intellectual capacities are very similar to dogs, and they are able to pick up on distress. Anita was arrested again on October 5th after a truck transporting pigs to slaughter rolled over and she attempted to help the injured pigs. Anita helped to start the foundation Toronto Pig Save, and she and other members of her organization will often go to witness pigs who are being brought to slaughter and attempt to at least record their circumstances to try to raise awareness of the horror and terror that these pigs are going through, this emotional distress that they're feeling as they're being transported to their deaths. In this situation, when this truck rolled over, more than 40 pigs in the truck were killed by the crash. Something that keeps coming up in this trial is the idea that compassion shouldn't be a crime. Giving water to a suffering animal shouldn't be a crime. One of the expert witnesses, who is a veterinarian, talked about the fact that these pigs were panting at such a rapid rate per minute. They were clearly very, very, very distressed and could use some water, which they wouldn't have been provided if Anita and the rest of Toronto Pig Save hadn't been there to show them compassion. Many people are supporting by going to watch the proceedings or going to stand outside of the courthouse during the proceedings to show their support for Anita and show that compassion really should not ever be a crime. Once again, I really recommend you watch the video that Bite Size Vegan just put out on this topic. Her interview with Anita is very interesting and you get to see a lot more about the story. I must say I'm pretty disappointed in my home country of Canada today, talking about the fact that we still support the sale of cosmetics that are tested on animals and the fact that we would even think of sending someone to jail for a decade for giving an animal a drink of water. It's just ridiculous. Canada, we need to get our together. So I apologize if the camera's in a slightly different spot. My camera died while I was in the middle of talking, so I took a break, charged my camera, had a smoothie bowl, and now I'm back to talk about Before the Flood. So, Before the Flood is a new documentary about the environment and the situation we're in right now, produced by Leonardo DiCaprio and starring him interviewing everybody. And it's currently available to watch in its entirety on YouTube, so I will link it below for you to watch it. I heard somewhere that it was going to be taken down off of YouTube at some point, so hopefully you see this early enough that you can still watch it at that link. And let me know in the comments below if the link stops working. I'll try to find another place for you guys to watch it. I watched this documentary with my husband a couple nights ago, and both of us kind of finished it and looked at each other and went, yeah, not too impressed, to be honest. As you've probably heard from a lot of vegans in the YouTube community, it did kind of feel like an inconvenient truth all over again. But the problem is that now we're in 2016, the problems are bigger, the risk is greater, and it just wasn't urgent. He didn't make it feel urgent. It's not like watching Cowspiracy where it finishes and you're like, holy we need to do something right now. It finished and I was kind of like, yeah, I mean, the environment isn't doing too great. I kind of already knew that. Thanks, Leo. And he also just didn't seem to care too much. In every interview, he had no facial expression. He was just standing there with his arms crossed, seemingly not even listening, really, to the people he was talking to. It was just kind of weird, to be honest. And the big thing that I'm sure a lot of vegans are talking about right now is that there was barely any mention of animal agriculture. That's pretty much the reason I wanted to watch this movie after Leo picking up Cowspiracy and helping them to get onto Netflix. I was sure that this movie would have a big section on animal agriculture, and he did talk about it for maybe 2 minutes, close to the end of the movie. By the time it came up, I was like, oh, thank God you're going to talk about it. And then he talked about it for 2 seconds, and the takeaway from that whole section was, stop eating beef and eat chicken instead. I'm sorry, what? They even showed in that section how large the contribution to global warming is from beef and then from chicken, and then the fact that eating plants was like this much, but they didn't recommend going vegan. The expert he talked to just said, not everyone's going to eat tofu, so eat chicken. What? Now, a lot of the other parts of the movie I found very interesting and informative. I do know a lot already about the environment, but for someone who doesn't, it's a really interesting watch as far as learning more about fossil fuels. And there's even a section about palm oil, which I found really interesting, showing the destruction of the Indonesian rainforest due to palm oil production. And I found that part of the movie very interesting and worthwhile to watch. And I agree that we need to be moving towards renewable energy, for sure. We need to be going towards solar and wind power. We need to stop taking fossil fuels out of the ground, for sure. But we all know that animal agriculture is a huge contributor to global warming and it needs to be addressed. And I'm really disappointed that Leo just left it out of pretty much the entire movie. We know that he knows the facts and yet he's ignoring them. So overall, I just found the movie disappointing. I found some of the information interesting. I found some of the shots really devastating to see really where our Earth is going. But I've seen these things before and a lot of people will have seen these things. The urgency of the situation wasn't really portrayed, and the largest negative impact on our environment, the animal agriculture industry, was basically ignored. So go watch it for yourself. Don't just take my word for it. I would love to know if you've seen it, what your thoughts were below. I'm, again, like I said, really disappointed, and I'm going to continue to recommend Cowspiracy to everyone who wants to know more about the environment. So that is all for this week's Last Week in Vegan. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know in the comments below what your favorite story was, or if I missed anything important that happened this past week in vegan. Once again, let me know if you've seen Before the Flood and what your thoughts are on the film in the comments. And don't forget to like this video if you liked it, and to subscribe for new videos every Monday and Saturday. Until next time, bye guys. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe. Of course, follow me on social media so we can be friends, and support me on Patreon like these super awesome people did. They're supporting me every month so I can keep creating free content just for you. P.S. If you like my makeup look in this video, I'm gonna link below the products I use because everything on my face is vegan and cruelty-free.